There you are, and welcome to the Nine Questions podcast, where I'm going to bring exciting insights and wisdom from some of the niftiest leaders in our community. So, I'm your host, Sam Thompson, and I'm excited to share all of this with you. Each podcast is going to have someone that's an authority on the subject matter that we're going to talk, and we're going to look at stories and strategies and tips on how to live life in our magical world, right? How to navigate today's adventure, so to speak. So, whether you're looking for inspiration or tips or some wisdom, some motivation, practical advice, this podcast is for you. So, tune in the 9th of each month for the new 9 questions. Don't forget to subscribe and rate. Share would be cool. Now, keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times, and let's get on with the show. Thanks for watching. Welcome, everybody, to the 9 questions. This month, we have a treat. Is my lovely dear friend from a long time ago, and still currently, she's still currently on my friends list, Byron Ballard. She's a native of Western North Carolina. She's a writer, amateur folklorist with a specialty in Appalachian folk magic and healing. She tours extensively in the U.S. and Great Britain. Her books include 4 on mountain folk magic. The first was Staubs and Ditchwater, which was, when did you publish that?
2012.
2012. And your most recent one here in 2023 is Small Magics. And
Correct.
You currently reside in Asheville and are known affectionately as the Village Witch, if I remember correctly.
Mostly affectionately. Yeah, mostly.
Well, one must have a hint of color. Right,
oh, so gosh, it's good to see your face.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to dive right in. Here's an easy one. All right. What is the most interesting place you've ever been to? So you teach all over, here and abroad in Great Britain. I don't know what they call it now anymore, but
that is a hard question. But because I do go to a lot of different places, but I am going to say the most interesting place I have been is in Glastonbury. And people go, oh, you went to Glastonbury tour? Oh, you went to... No, I went to the Somerset Rural Life Museum. And it's based on an old farmstead in Glastonbury. And on that property, there is, I believe it's a 15th century tithe barn. And that's where neighboring farmers would bring their tithe that then would go to the church.
Right, they're 10%.
And it is this incredibly beautiful building, number one. It looks like a big old cathedral. But the thing about it was so peopled with ghosts. There were so many peasant farmers and crying young girls. And it just, the moment I stepped in there, it was just amazing. And so when people say, oh, I'm going to Glastonbury, what should I see? Oh, I should go to the Chalice Well and the Red Spring and the tour. And I go, no, you need to go to the Rural Life Museum and walk into that tithe barn, because that's going to be the holiest place in the whole place.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I never heard of it.
No, nobody has.
Yeah.
Glastonbury is full of all this, beautiful ancient stuff. And it also has a real veneer of kind of new age stuff. But that tithe barn, for my money, that tithe barn is the most sacred place in that town.
I can see that. So with you traveling so much and now you're writing ad nauseum, you don't get done with one before you're already halfway through another.
That sadly, that's very true. I'm working on one now that is not at all about folk life or folk ways, but it's about Appalachian, what we do with this broken, dilapidated old culture. And I'm working on that now. And also, November 2, I'm going to begin doing the edits for my new book, which is going to be out, we think winter of 25, which is called Feral Church.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm, juggling the stuff.
So we're doing all this. What is there one thing about it that you didn't expect?
About what?
This
About Feral
your
Church?
life
About
now. No, as far as being an
about my
author and
life.
writer and
Oh,
teacher
oh
and
my
all this
God.
kind of stuff.
I didn't expect any of it. Not a damn bit of it. And so when I wrote that very first book, which I guess I wrote it in 2011, and I thought, well, I'm gonna write this book on folk magic as I know it. And I'm just writing this down because all these practices they're fading away as the culture is exposed more and more to outside forces. See, I didn't even use the word carpetbaggers. Aren't you proud of me? So I was just going to
Disappointed?
write. Are you disappointed in me? Really? So once that book was done, and then I went on kind of a book tour. I mean, really, I just visited friends and talked about this book. And I found out that all this stuff that I love and that I've practiced, family members, relatives have practiced, it's still going strong. There's still people doing it. It's just that they don't have a business card and they haven't hung out a shingle and they ain't got a website and all that stuff. They just do it. They know that people know that, oh, if you got warts, you can go over to Bessie's house and Miss Bessie knows how to take off warts. And so it's all still going on. And that
For
was that that
talking the
made me
fire out.
happy.
If you got burnt, just
Yeah,
talking the fire out of it.
talking the fire out. Exactly.
Yeah, I grew up all that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, me too.
yeah,
Me too.
yeah.
And it's nice to know people still doing it.
Hmm. So you think with all this that is there a maybe I should ask it this way. What do people misunderstand about you the most?
It's it's two things and they're kind of opposite things, which is interesting to me. So right now there is a witch aesthetic. And if I go to a festival or a conference where people don't know me, I don't I don't meet the aesthetic.
Oh,
I'm not, I mean,
what a
I was
witch
going to say,
looks like.
yeah, I was going to say, I'm not multiply tattooed, but I am, but I'm not multiply pierced, and young and thin and beautiful and talking the right talk and looking a certain way and being frankly a little bit of a diva. And I've just never been able to pull that off really.
No.
So that's one way people underestimate me because they meet just this. I mean, look at me. I'm a pretty mild mannered. I got good manners because I've had a good grandmother, and I will tend to be pretty nice to people until they're not nice to me. And so there are people that then think I'm not what I say I am, that somehow I'm really not that. And then the opposite thing is when people see me in action, when they hear me call the West and bring in the ancestors, then they're like, oh, holy crap, well, where did that come from? And sometimes where that came from is, yes, I do all the things that I say that I do. I practice magic a lot. I practice Bane work a lot. But also where that comes from is a trained actor's voice. So I can make you feel that I brought the ancestors in, whether I brought them in or not. So it's a kind of a balance of those two things that people, they think I'm one thing that I'm not. And then on another hand, they think I'm something else that I'm also not. So you have to get to know me. I spend a lot of time in social media. I work that pretty hard. And there are people who think they know everything about me and they don't. They just don't.
Yeah.
They know about me what I want them to know about me. And I think you are pretty much the same way.
Yeah. Because I have a close circle.
Yeah.
I have a close circle, and I think
Yeah.
I think that comes from one. I think our upbringing. Because
Yeah.
it's just you know, living outside of that, because you don't have that trust in people you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not I don't think it's necessarily a mistrust. It's just that when you're putting up backer with somebody, there's a different level of connectivity.
Yeah.
When you're throwing hay, there's all that stuff that you kind of have within that type of community that's different now in the world we
Yeah.
live in versus the world we grow up in.
Because there are not those social events like you're talking about. I remember many times that we'd go down to my cousin's house, and she lived in a trailer down on the corner, and they had put in a concrete driveway. And periodically in the fall, a pickup truck full of corn would arrive, and they'd take down the back of the truck, and with rakes, they just rake this corn out. And we were all there. All the adults were in those folding chairs, the ones that have the lattice work.
The plastic
Yeah,
weave,
the plastic
aluminum
weaving.
chairs. Yeah, buddy.
And there'd be tables for everybody's ashtrays and their sweet tea and whatever. And they would just sit there the better part of the day shucking corn.
Yep.
And they'd shuck it, the shucks would go in a big pile, the corn itself would go into like an aluminum wash tub. And then the youngin's job was the boys were to sweep up the shucks, and they fed my ponies, my cousin's ponies, and the
Pigs, all that,
corn
yeah.
went in the house. Yeah. And the girls took the corn in the house. So it was this really ritualized form of community engagement that didn't feel ritualized. It just felt like this is the way life is. And
We
it
didn't
was
know no
okay with
better.
everybody. Yeah.
I was talking to somebody today. I said, I remember where and when I grew up, I remember ordering my shoes from Sears and Roebuck catalog. And it was 3 weeks before it showed up. I mean, it was just it was a time that doesn't exist anymore.
Right. Right.
Because
Yeah.
you had that great big old Sears and Roebuck catalog, and you spent all day dog ear and all the tech, where you wanted your parents to look. Here, I want that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tell people there were kids I went to school with, and I was not one of these children because my dad was a truck driver about that point. But there were children that I went to school with who could not get their new shoes for fall until the tobacco had gone to the warehouse, gone to the market.
Yeah.
And they had to wait because there wasn't money. So if your feet had grown a size and a half or 2 sizes over the summer, you're just out of luck. You're going to have to go to school with shoes that didn't feel good. But then you got shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the memories.
Well, and not all of it, a lot of it is just bad stuff. And there is this kind of beautiful mist that has fallen over Appalachia from some quarters, like, oh, Appalachia. And I'm telling you, to be a subsistence farmer in Appalachia was hard. To be a mill worker was hard. And my buddy, Hobie Ford, he made a photograph of an old tobacco barn that's fallen down out in North Buncombe. And I said, it always makes me sad when I'm seeing these old buildings falling down. But I don't romanticize that life because it was a hard life. It was a very hard life.
Yeah. But I didn't know no better. It's just just what you did, but you hear people talk to now, even now, people want to live in the country until it's time to do country stuff.
Right. Right. And they look at you crazy when you tell them, oh, well, like today, for instance, I went out and cut down all my greasy beans so I could get the seed ready to go in because we're going to have cold weather coming. Mm-hmm. So, right now I've put my hand over here on these beautiful beans. Oh, the seeds are so beautiful and perfect. And people are like, are you going to eat those? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to eat them. I'm going to plant next year. Oh, you plant from seeds. I don't know how the hell else you get beans. I mean, to be honest, I do not.
Well, you're a witch, Byron. Come on now.
I know, exactly. I said, well, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And people are just funny. They just don't think about where food comes from. A lot of people just don't.
Well, they just, you don't know. If you don't know, you don't know.
Exactly.
You
But
know.
wouldn't you be curious? I swear, I'm so nosy about so many things. And something will come up and I'll think, well, golly, how would you get out of that? Huh. Let me think about that one. And I'm never going to be in that situation to have to get out of it. But boy, my brain immediately goes to, well, plan A would be this. And then here's plan B and plan C. And I'd need 2 people for this and 5 people for that. And I could do this and all by myself.
I know just who to call. To
Yeah,
help me out with that.
I cleaned out a couple of garden beds and planted some stuff in it yesterday. And people were joking, ha ha, who'd you bury? It looked like you buried, because my beds are like 4 feet by 20 feet, something like that. Well, I guess you could just hide that you buried somebody. What I wanted to say was, I know people with pigs. I don't got to bury a body. I just got to get it to the pig pen. That's all I got to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be, yeah.
Yeah, easy.
So what's your
burying
biggest pet? Go ahead.
No, I just keep riffing on. Go ahead.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
In general,
Yeah.
stupid people. And I don't mean ignorant people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean people who ought to know better, but apparently they don't. And I don't hold with that. And I don't hold with mean people either.
Mm.
People that are, they just
Bullies. I don't like bullies.
I don't like bullies either.
Yeah.
I was bullied enough in 7th and 8th grade and in high school, and I don't hold with that either. But there's an awful lot of people now, especially in social media. They're perfectly happy to bully you if you don't toe the line. There is a very narrow path, and you better follow that path, says Big Brother. And because if you veer off of it even a little bit, well, then, oh, good heavens. Did you really say that? Did you really do that? Are you really that? And then it begins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get to preaching on that. So I'm gonna leave that one. I'm gonna just you've done your part.
Let's just walk past that one just a little bit.
So with all that you're doing, because you hear a lot of people say, well, I ain't got time, I ain't got time to do this, I ain't got time to do that, I ain't got whatever. And here you are doing all the things that you're doing. How do you do it? How do you keep it going? What's your motivation to do all that?
Well, I think you make time for the things you feel like are important and that you love to do. And that's just the truth of it. Yeah, I know it looks like I do a lot, but I don't do nearly enough. There's so much to be done in the world. There's so much more I could do, but I have a finite amount of energy to do anything. And I've just been, and you and I have talked about this for the past little over a month since the beginning of September. I've just been weary. I've been moving to too many places. I've been moving too fast. I've been dealing with too much stuff, and I'm just weary. And part of what I teach is how you take existing energy from the planet, from the moon. I do a lot of work with the moon, and you just re-energize yourself. And somebody said to me, well, why don't you just dig into the planet and put some more energy into your body? And I had to explain, it's not the lack of energy. That's not the problem. I'm tired. I'm physically and emotionally and mentally tired. And yes, I could drink the equivalent of Red Bull by pulling energy into my body so I'd be energized and I could get something done. That does not negate the level of sheer weariness that my body and soul have right now. And the only thing that fixes that is following the cycle of the seasons and following what is happening in nature. And for me right now, to drop my leaves and get some rest. And that's what I intend to do, is to rest my body, rest my soul, the things I did today, I planted onions, and then I went into Mother Grove Goddess Temple and I tidied up the temple. And those things, they don't energize me. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. But what they do is they bring nourishment into my soul and they start to repair my ragged little heart. And that's what I need, which is not laying down on the bed and saying, oh, taking to my bed, oh, I've just got to get some rest. I'm just plumb wore out. It's finding the things that re that heal me. Let's just use that word. Finding the things that heal me, body and soul.
So
You laughing about me taking to my bed?
no, I'm laughing because I know people just like that, and you know who I'm talking. I mean, it's just
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So is that how you would perform self-care? It's just
Yes.
get
Yeah.
your get your hands dirty and go be of service to something else.
Yep. Yep. And also doing the real basic stuff. And now this is a sermon I preach all the
That's
time.
all right. Be
Uh,
here for it.
I just, I just think we need to remember the stuff we learned in our fifth grade health class, which is get as much sleep as you can, rest your body when you can't sleep, drink a lot of water, eat as healthy and good food as you can afford, and get some gentle exercise. And I swear, when I do that, it it means everything to me physically to just be able to tend to this physical self of mine.
Well, you gotta, you gotta empower it, right? And if you're not, because I'm kind of going through some of that to where, to be honest with you, COVID really kind of wrecked my diet, because
Yeah,
I got to where I was, it was junk food. Plus, I was taking
yeah.
junk in, so I was taking junk in. I think one kind of leads to the other, but my recent adventure, we're going to call it, has really got me to where I need to start paying attention. My body needs to be as healthy as possible, and living on Cheerios and ice cream, although very tasty, it's not an optimal diet. you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's treat food, not living food. It's okay to go
yeah.
get you an ice cream once a week or whatever, but a regular diet of it is not optimal. So I think
No,
and I think that should be part of self care is you know taking the time to eat, not that you're eating good, but just taking the time to eat.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
to actually pay attention to what it is you're eating. Yeah, I think we get so we were talking a minute ago, right? About making the time, right?
Yeah,
That are important to you. Eating should be important to you. Just
yeah,
my thought. But it's a great way to once again recharge because you're
yeah.
paying attention to what's nourishing your body.
But
Thank you
because
for
our machine has to have certain fuel or it doesn't function.
properly.
And yes, you can eat all the junk food you want and you can drink as much as you want and all that other stuff. But if you want your body to perform in an optimum way, which as we get older becomes really, really important. So there were years that I could live on 4 hours of sleep a night
Maybe.
and, have a junior Big Mac or whatever and large fries and I was okay. But now I find that, especially when I'm doing like back to back festivals, and the food there is always just crap. It's terrible. And
But it's
I've
hot.
started taking,
it's,
hmm,
it's it's hot. There's nothing worse than a cold
sometimes,
funnel cake. You know.
oh, well, I've gone to festivals where I'm their honored guest, and they give me like a ham sandwich on white bread with a bag of chips for lunch and my choice of soda. And it's like I can't do this. I really can't do this. So I've started bringing when I can. I bring a box of food with me, and it's got peanut butter and tuna fish and yes, occasionally I do, in fact, have some Vienna sausages just because I have to be real careful about my carb intake.
Not to mention the
And, you
sodium.
know, Vienna sausages ain't got no carbs. Now they got plenty of fat and salt, but
Yeah.
they ain't got no carbs. So that's another self-care thing I try to
Saltine.
do.
Yeah.
Hmm? And no meat,
Saltine.
right?
Yeah. Just
They
put them
just
on
made the
saltine.
pig lips. But yeah, and there are too few people, especially I'm gonna say in the pagan heathen community, who pay attention to that stuff. And they need to be paying better attention.
Well, it's not about my thought is it's not about being crunchy, right? It's just about
No,
living
no.
good. You know,
Well,
it's about, I'd like to live tomorrow. So maybe I should take care of me today. It's that
yeah,
investment. I'm
yeah.
investing in my health.
Hmm.
So what are you most proud of? I mean, because you've been around the block and you've been through some stuff because you've probably been at this longer than I have for sure. But what in all this world, what are you most proud of?
Look at there. See them?
Uh-huh.
Those are greasy cut short seeds, son.
Ooh.
I didn't grow much of a garden at all, but I grew enough greasy cut shorts so that I have seed for next year. So I'm proud of those. I'm very proud of those. I'm proud of my brilliant, tough, ethical daughter. I'm
Mm.
very, very proud of her. I'm proud of the community that we have created in Asheville. People say to me when I'm out traveling, "Oh, you're so lucky to live in such a good pagan community, strong pagan community." And I just say, look, anybody can have a community like this. And I'm gonna tell you how. We built this community starting 30 years ago,
Yep.
more. And we built it brick by brick. And before we did that, we built the damn bricks. So, yes, you can build a solid community, but it's going to take somebody with vision who's willing to work hard, who isn't afraid to be out there because it could be dangerous or you could get laughed at. I mean, all of that. I'm proud of this community. And yes, we have problems like every other community does, but we have some things to show for it. We have Coalition of Earth Religions for Education and Support, which is a nonprofit. It's a pagan-based nonprofit. We have Mother Grove Goddess Temple, which is a
Mhm.
501c3 church here. We have probably at this point 5 or 6 strong metaphysical stores in the area. And then we have all these small circles and covens and groves that are all practicing exactly what they need to practice when they need to practice it. And they have, at this point, I'm knocking on wood, and they are safer than they would normally be because we did the work of being out there and being public. And we dealt with what that meant 30 years ago, and it was not easy, but we did it. We did it. So yeah, I'm proud of those two things. I'm proud of the soil in my garden because we've been working that. Gosh, I've
Mm.
been working that for probably 35, almost 40 years.
Mm.
And it's good. And
Black.
it's
Mm.
yeah, and of a
Mm.
spring, I can ball up my fist like this and I can ram it into those beds and my fist will go in all the way to my elbow.
Mm.
That's how rich and good the soil is. So proud of that. Yeah,
One,
I'm
one,
proud of
one
some
kind of
stuff.
one kind of table sale. So while we're on the topic, so kind of two things. First, well, we'll start with this first. Can you share? Would you share kind of where we were 30 years ago to where we are now, and some because I feel like we're kind of I see similarities, right? Because I
Yeah.
was around back some of that time too, and I remember some of those witch wars that we went through. Um,
Oh yeah.
but you know, some of the because I see some of that. I'm gonna call it gatekeeping,
Okay.
just straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just that's just how my definition is. To to cultures to whatever. There's just I think there's some gatekeeping involved, and I see that similarities back at that time to where if you weren't from this proper lineage, and you didn't have this XYZ teacher, you weren't real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you talk to, from that point to this point, some similarities that you're seeing, and maybe what we learned from back then that we can maybe apply now to save us a little heartbreak?
Oh,
You up for it?
I'm just laughing because I had a dream, I had a fantasy that I would get to the age I am now, and we would just bust this damn generation gap crap all out. We would not do that. So that the youngins and the middlins and the oldins would all sit together. And when the youngins say, well, we want to try XYZ, then the people who've already experienced XYZ would go, well, okay, now we tried that. And I'm going to tell you how we did it and tell you whether we had any success with that. And then you go from there. And so it's not judgmental. It's me saying, well, here you go. Here is one way this could be done. But the truth of the matter is, the generation gap is it just is what it is. Because those 22 and 24-year-olds, they don't want to hear what I've got to say. They just simply don't, because they want to figure this stuff out for themselves. And that's just exactly what we did. We would read some of that old stuff and we go, well, I mean, that's kind of interesting, but what I want to do is
Yeah,
this big
this is the
shiny
80s.
new. Yeah,
This is the
exactly.
90s. Come on now.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's not really what you asked, but that's something that has been sad for me in a way. But I have had the experience of talking about tower time, and I wrote a book about that. It came out in 2018 called Earthworks: Ceremonies in Tower Time. So I was teaching about that. It's been a couple years ago now at Wisteria in Southern Ohio. And there were a handful of, I'm guessing, 22, 23-year-olds, and they were braided, and they had animal skins and big hunky jewelry, and we know those kids.
Mhm.
We have some of those kids. And I was talking about how all this stuff is collapsing. It's just collapsing. And if you don't believe it, then you are a fool to yourself. And so there were like 4 or 5 of them, and they were getting so excited. They're so excited. And afterwards, they came up and they said, so these systems, they're collapsing. And I said, oh yeah, they're collapsing. And they said, so it's not up to us to take them down. And I said, no, they're collapsing. We can help them to come down, but it's not your job. It's not my job. They're going to collapse. Our job is to rebuild and to do that right now. And these kids were so excited because they had been living under this oppressive sense that these horrifying systems are something they're going to have to deal with and dismantle. And the idea that they were going to fall down of their own accord, that just made them jubilant. So that was a moment where I could impart what I felt like was the absolute wisdom of the situation. And they bought it immediately. And they bought it in a way that middle-aged people don't, because it's too scary for middle-aged people. Because they've lived with bad toxic systems, and they'll just endure it a little bit longer. But these kids were just like, hallelujah, let's do it now. Take them all down. I'll help you. You got a jackhammer? I got a hammer. So that was good. That was very good. I guess I would say, and I was thinking about what you just said about, well, you don't have the lineage, you didn't have this, you didn't have that. We look back now, and so much of that stuff was just sheer tea malarkey. And we have found, there would be this wonderful teacher. Everybody loved this teacher. And you'd find out that teacher's entire biography was just a lie full of bullshit. That's all it was. And that hurt people. So they thought, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think those people thought they were helping to build a strong movement of pagan people in a place where we were oppressed, no question.
No, yeah, well, yeah.
But instead, what they did was create these toxic mythologies that really hurt people when they found out the truth. And then a lot of those people gave up and they became Unitarian Universalists. And there's nothing wrong with UUs. I love me some UUs.
Mm-hmm.
But they lost the thread of being a pagan because they were lied to. They were
They
lied
couldn't
to.
recover. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that happens in a lot of systems.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not, we don't own that. There's a lot of them. But
Well,
it doesn't make the hurt any less. Right.
no, but and I think also when you and I were coming up in all this, we were saying could we were really conscious that we could not show any vulnerability.
Mm.
We had to have all the answers. If we didn't know, we had to know somebody who knew, and we couldn't just say, you know what, we're making this up as we go along. Would you want to sit with me? We'll make up the next thing together.
Yeah.
So I can hear your thoughts on it. We just felt like we could not do that because somebody would run right over you. And maybe it's still like that. I don't know, because I don't have anything to prove to anybody anymore. I just don't. Except that I have the best bean seed in the county. That's
So
all I'm having to prove.
So with that thought in mind, what would you tell new pagans coming into this that we're in? If you could give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
It would be to feel what the land is doing, is to acknowledge our kinship with the land, wherever the land is. Because I hear all the time from urban pagans, oh, but when I get to move onto the land, everything's going to be better. Well, the built environment of Stonehenge is different than the built environment of Raleigh, but there's still a built environment.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you can access any divine, you can access your kinship with the land, all of that in any kind of place. And if you are putting that off until you get to the country, well, you're screwed, because I don't know how it is where you are. Nobody can afford the damn country here. We can't afford $100,000 an acre. Who can? Well,
Yeah.
people from California can.
Yeah.
People from Florida can. Well, we can't afford that. So you might as well love the one you're with. So if you are going to be in an apartment in an urban setting for the foreseeable future, figure out how you talk to the land spirits there. Figure out what it's like to have house whites when you're on the 30th floor of an apartment building. Figure that out and be curious about it. And I mean, I write books and I have a lot of friends who write books, but damn it, quit buying every piece of crap book you can get a hold of and start practicing. And do it in the simplest way possible. You don't have to go out and spend $1,000 on expensive stuff or cheap stuff or whatever. If you want to start a particular blend of paganism, start with the wheel of the year and the land you're on and go from there. And be fearless. I tell people all the time, I promise you, when you are first learning this, you are not going to conjure a demon. And if you do, that is a question of your mental health and not your ability. So if you feel like you conjured a demon into the driveway, then your ass better get to a good therapist. Because you may need a little change of those meds, buddy.
Well, and I also think, getting into the wheel of the year, I mean, that's one thing that doesn't change.
Mm-mm.
Knock on wood. That's one thing,
Well,
and it does.
I mean,
That's a different topic, but
yeah, that's a whole different thing. We are watching the wheel of the year change, but I'm frustrated with people who don't have any subtlety or nuance. I get real frustrated with them. So they'll go, "Oh, I don't know why I should celebrate Lammas because I don't grow wheat. I don't know how to bake bread." Blah, 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 blah. And if you look at the wheel of the year as we have developed it, we have 2 solstices and 2 equinoxes, and we don't even have to think about them because that's an astronomical occurrence. You can wrap a story around if you want to. I don't care if you do or not. But those actually happen. You don't have to have faith that they're going to happen. They're going to happen. The winter solstice is going to come, and the nights are going to get shorter and the days are going to get longer. And that's just the truth of it. And in between each one of those is one of those fabulous cross quarter days. And there's one to plant, one to tend, one to harvest, and one to rest. And if you're not a farmer and I don't have a garden and all that whiny shit people say all the time, I'm just here for, you can use those things metaphorically. So it is a time to plant. So what ideas do you want to put into your life in the coming year? What do you want? Do you want to plant that you're going to have good luck this year or good health? Then you plant that in whatever symbolic way you need to do that. And then you tend it. And then when you are ready, you harvest all of that metaphorical stuff. And then you give yourself a break and you rest. You rest as the land is resting. And I understand in different biospheres, it is different, but just figure it out for yourself. If you really only have 2 seasons, if you have the dry season and the rainy season, then you just figure that stuff out and do as all of us did in the 80s and 90s and just figure it out and slap some ritual on it and honor it. It's not rocket science. I swear to God, it's not rocket science.
It's about doing the work.
It's about doing the work.
Nobody's going to give you the answers. And it's about doing the work. That's it. I mean, you got to find out what works for you. And here's exactly. Here's what I tell people. Here's something real fun you're going to like, is that when you figure out what works for you, chances are that's going to change too.
Yes.
Because it's called growth. And as you grow, your practice should grow, which means it'll change.
Yes. And I don't know about you, but for me, as I've gotten more practiced, as I've done this more year after year after year, my work gets simpler. Yep. It just gets simpler and easier. Yep. So people making a big deal. We just had a big eclipse. Oh my God, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And it's like, well, I'm going to do what I always do. No, I'm not going to put on a special white robe, and I'm not going to dance a particular way or cut particular herbs. But yeah, I'm going to acknowledge it. But I'm beyond the place of LARPing my religion. I just don't do that anymore. Well, it's not a game for me.
And also, I do think there's some validity to people doing that in the beginning. I remember doing that in the beginning, and as I changed and added the paraphernalia and all the widgets and doohickeys, as I brought all that stuff out and I changed and I put on this stuff, it was a way at that time for me to acknowledge I was changing from one. I didn't have it integrated enough into my life to where there was no separation, so I needed that to go, okay, this is who I am now. And I think for me, as I grew, as I changed, it just wasn't something that I did. It became something that I do.
And something that you are.
Yeah. And it just is it's like that. What do you do for this? I don't know. We do what I always do. It's just, if I feel like I need to do something, I'm going to do something. And if I don't feel like I need to do it, then I'm just going to hang out for a little while, but
yeah. Yeah, same for me. Same for me. And I'm thrilled about that. When I look back over how my morning prayers were 25 years ago, and they were very ritualized. I lit this candle for this, and this candle for this, and this. Yeah, all of that. And I had prayer beads that I used, and I would go through the prayers. And now sometimes I go to my altar. Sometimes I just sit here at my kitchen table and I go, here are the things that have been laid in my hand in the past few days. And I need to know, is this my work? Yes or no? Is this my work? And the universe, the divine goddess always says to me, well, that thing is, and that thing is, but this thing right here, there's not a thing you can do about it. So you need to give the blessing that you can from your heart, that is resolved in the best way it can be resolved. And then you move on to the things you have some agency in. And that is consistent at this point.
but I think for new folks to also understand that that comes with time and grade.
Yeah.
You don't start there year one. You,
Yeah.
Most people don't start there year one, because it's just it's earned. I don't mean that ugly, but it's earned through the work, right? You got to do the work. You got to do the meditations. You got to do the walks. You got to do the, you got to actually live you've got all this stuff that you have to do before you can get to there, and that's, and I think in our vending machine lifestyle, right? Because I know a lot of people, and I heard this at a talk one time, and I was like, oh, it's perfect. Is that we, a lot of times people treat their deities like a vending machine. I'm gonna give you this, and I want that back.
Oh, I
you know,
love that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I had never really thought of it that way, but I know a lot of folks that are like that. They check in when they need it, and when they need it, it's because they need something. Versus it's part of your practice. And he said you got to quit treating the deity like a vending machine. It just doesn't work. That's not a relationship.
Because we are who we are. Now I'm gonna bring up a country song. So there is a song by a rapper and singer called Jelly Roll, and it starts out with, "I only pray when I ain't got a prayer, and I only come to you when I'm in need." And the whole thing, it's really beautiful because it's just this desperate man who needs all the help he can get. But a whole section of it is, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, Hail Mary." And I thought, but our people do exactly the same thing. It's like, well, I have this particular problem. And then they go through the big book of goddesses and they figure out which one is the goddess of whatever that is, rather than having a relationship with this divine being, so that when you are in a peck of trouble, you already have a relationship and you go, "Well, Mother, here's where I am. What can I do? And will you help me do it?" And
And I
that's
think,
hugely different.
yeah, and I think it's especially challenging in today's environment because I think that people are challenged with relationship, right? COVID
Yeah.
didn't really help a lot of that. If you don't have community, it's hard to have that relationship, right? Because we are. I heard this on another talk that I listened to. I listened to too many people probably, but he said that us and wolves are the only pack animals on the planet. Humans are pack animals.
Huh.
We travel in packs. Wolves travel in pack because it's the only danger the buffalo ever had were from pack animals, humans and
Oh,
wolves, because we're the only
wow.
two pack animals on the planet. Because we travel in pack, we work together when we want to,
Yeah.
whatever. And I think since we've had this disconnection with community, because within a community, there's a natural hierarchy. Everybody has a responsibility. Not everybody can be the hand. Not everybody can be the foot. You've got to, everybody has a place and a role within community. And if you're not involved in that nitty gritty, messy, right, community, you don't understand how relationships work. And if you can't have a good relationship within that environment, it's hard to have one with your deity.
Yeah.
If you can't carry on a relationship with a lover, right, for a significant period of time, chances are there might be some work that you can do in the relationship department, because you're going to also be challenged to have a relationship with a deity, because there's some things that you need to personally work through and work on. And that's cool. That's part of how we live. Not everybody's, rainbows and unicorns. We got to roll them sleeves up and go to work, right? And I think because of that, we struggle with, once again, flipping through the book. I'm going to do this one because this is a quick fix. I'm going to take this pill. But that's how we are as a society. I'm going to take this pill to fix this. I'm going to do this. I want to quit. I don't want to, I don't want to quit eating the things that are making my blood pressure spike. I'm just going to take this pill and I'm going to keep driving on. not to, triggering anybody about if you got high blood pressure. I'm not getting into all that. I'm just using that as a reference, right? Um, so, but I think that's a challenge for our community today,
Yeah.
because we're in such a, I heard an advertisement on the radio that McDonald's put on that, 1 out of 3 Americans have worked at a McDonald's.
Huh.
Or something
That's
like that.
interesting.
They did some kind of stat, and I heard it, and I was like, at first I was like, well, that's kind of cool. And I thought, well, how fucked up are we? That 1 out of 3 people, we're eating that much, that 1 out of 3 people are working there to feed us this crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just, and I'm like, okay, well, it's it. We want fast food health care. We want, the cable got to come out now. We want, everything is on demand, right? We don't have to wait for nothing. You can
Yeah.
watch, How the Grinch Stole Christmas 24/7 now. You don't have to wait until the week of Christmas to watch it. It was that limited time that you could watch, that stuff, and you worked all the way through the year waiting up to it. So what can we do individually that can make community collectively better?
We can model what we want to see in our community. We can walk our talk. And there are way too many people I know who they talk a really big game, but when it comes right down to it, they're not really modeling for me how that needs to look. Because it's easy to turn on any kind of TV, any kind of media, and see how people behave that is abysmal and heartbreakingly violent and all those things that hurt us as a culture to deal with. But then we go to our kids' softball game and then we exhibit all the violence that we saw on TV. Only it's all about winning that game. So I think if more people, and this is a specific thing for spiritual and religious people, because I came down on somebody today on Twitter, I mean X or whatever the hell we call it now, and it's that if you believe that your divine being is all about justice, then you are obligated, if you are doing the work, to be a person who is just. That is your obligation. Your obligation is to figure out your ethical system and how that locks you in to a certain kind of behavior in the world. And you don't fudge on it. You don't go, well, just this one time, I'm going to do this thing. You try your best to be consistent in what you believe and what you do and what you practice. Just strive for a little bit of consistency, and also strive to be somebody that if people look at you in the world and they look at what you do, that balances with who you say you are. So if you are this loving, kind, generous person and that's your brand, then you better, by God, be a loving, kind, generous person all the time. To the cashier at the grocery store, to the banker, to the person who is fixing your flat tire. You need to be that way to all those people and to be consistent, because if you're not, then you are not walking your talk. And that's I don't believe in sin, but that has hurt us as a community again and again. When we find out that our leaders are hypocrites. Exactly. Yeah. Also, that whole leader thing, I want that to just, we need to all assume at this point that we are the leaders, and that as leaders, we work together to make the world better for all of our communities, not just your online community of people you are never going to damn see, but also your neighbors that you may disagree with both religiously and politically. So how are you making the world better for all those beings? All those beings. And it comes down always to me with walking your talk. If you're not walking the road, then go sit down. Don't think I'm going to follow you, because I'm not.
I know for me, with our store, we're not out because it's not a metaphysical store. That's not what we're That's not what we're selling.
Right.
So we don't talk about any of that stuff because we're trying to build in with community, and we're in a small town, rural foothills, and our store's not about that.
Right. Right.
You don't have to. I don't have to wear the hubcap to know who I am. And I almost prefer people not knowing, because here's something I learned early in my. That was the one thing about staying in the closet. You got to kind of see when I did come out, I didn't want people to think, oh my God, they just see, they're trying to match up what they thought they knew versus an actual person. And they were trying to reconcile because the two didn't match. Right. Because pagans were, we were baby eaters and worshiped the devil.
Right.
And all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't just wear pentagram anywhere, whenever you wanted.
No. And you still can't. You still can't.
In a lot of areas, yeah, a lot of areas for sure. But it was.
I remember years ago, one of my best friends, his aunt was a deacon in the Episcopal Church, and she had run into some problems. I don't remember what it was, and I'd volunteered to bring her some food and to do some errands and whatever, and she asked my friend, her nephew, well, what church does she belong to? And he said, well, she doesn't belong to a church. She's a Wiccan high priestess. And no, he said she's a pagan. And his aunt said, oh, she can't be a pagan. She's so nice. And so that was one person who then could equate being a pagan with being nice. And she got it. She understood it.
Yeah. And I don't know. We can talk about a lot of the hardcore stuff, because my thought is, I served in the Army, so everybody can do their own thing, right? As long as it don't bother me. This is my bubble. This is where I draw the line. You don't mess with me. I don't really care. You ain't bothering nobody else. You ain't bothering me. I don't care. But I also have a feeling that nobody owes anything to me, but I have to earn it, right? Because you can't. The only way you can get respect is to earn respect, right? You can respect the title, right? But you may not respect the person in the title. Yeah. Respect is one of those things that is earned. And I think that, there's a lot of this ebb of entitlement without actually earning it.
Yeah.
And you got to earn stuff, right? That's part of doing the work. You do the work, and all that other stuff will just happen natural. It's a mystery. it's magic. You do the work and it works. Wow.
Well, and I think you, like me, we grew up working class, so we understood that nothing came to you. I was
below that. I wasn't even working class. I was poor. I didn't have electricity growing up. At my house. And so I mean,
I had electricity, but I didn't have plumbing. So
well, you lived in the city.
No, I didn't. I lived out in the country, West Buncombe.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just thinking you were in Asheville, so I thought we did a lot of Christmas shopping in Asheville. We went to Asheville once a year to go Christmas shopping. Go to the mall, do all our shopping one day, and be done.
Yeah. Big day out.
Eat out, eat fast food somewhere. We were good, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing, especially for new people to understand, is that the work is how people should judge you, but it's often not the way people do judge you. That they judge you because you drive the right car, or you have the right teacher, or you read the right books, or you wear the right outfit. And I said this a few years ago, and I repeat myself often, is that we are the island of misfit toys. We are the weirdos, mister. That's us. We are all of that. And that, in fact, is our superpower. That is our real strength, because we weren't allowed at that table, at the cool kids table.
Mm-mm.
We sat at the nerd table. We sat at the artsy kid table. We can think outside the box because we were never allowed inside the box. So free ranging outside the narrow parameters of modern culture is how we really do well. And we do that. We navigate those seas better than anybody who ever sat at the cheerleaders table.
Because we had to earn it.
Yeah, yeah. And we forged it ourselves. Haha, see? I got right back
Thank
to
you. Nice
you.
segue. Appreciate
We
that.
forged it.
All right. So that's kind of is there anything extra you want to say? Is there a question you'd like to ask me? I always kind of throw myself on the chopping block. I know we
Well, I mean,
talk about so much all the time.
I
Yeah.
already asked you about that damn beard. How long is that going to go on?
As long as it can. Probably till
Braided, and what are you going
spring.
to do?
Probably still spring. I get I'm getting my strength back, so I'm able to start getting back at the smithy, and it's cold out there. It's nice to have a little insulation.
Yeah,
I may have
another
to
friend of mine was saying,
tuck it in my shirt when I'm, so I'm not catching it on fire, but not that long. I don't know.
can you do
Throw
those
it over
those
my
little?
shoulder.
Can you do any braids yet?
No,
So
I
you
hadn't
have
quite. I got a friend of mine that
braids.
had that, and I don't know if it'll get that long. That's going to take a while.
That's pretty long. But you could do it in like little braids and then put little metal clips on it so it wouldn't catch on fire.
Put me some pink ribbons in it. Just kind of give it some color, a little pop.
No, I don't
Orange.
know.
I can do orange.
I, I don't know about the ribbons because that feels like a fire hazard to me, buddy.
Well, Byron, I appreciate you.
I
Thanks for
appreciate you too.
sharing all your wisdom, taking the time out so we can learn. I'll have all your contact information and how to get with you down in the show notes, so everybody can just
Okay.
be easy, clicky. Go check out your work. I think it's important. We got to be easy, right? Because part of that.
That's right. They've got to just yeah. Somebody today was asking. We're doing an event for Samhain, and they'd never heard of Mother Grove Goddess Temple. I said, well, come on out for the Samhain event. And I said where it was, when it was, and what time it was. And the next thing this person said to me was, well, now, it is at this place? Because I looked at the event and I was like, yes, I told you that right there. Did you not read it all? But she didn't. She didn't read it. So why ask me a question if you're going to look it up anyway? Just look it up.
Or anyway, yeah.
Yeah, we could keep on with it for hours.
Sometimes I just go, thin the herd. At some point you just got to thin the herd.
Is it Darwinian? Because it feels Darwinian to me. Just let it go.
Bless your heart.
Oh, it is so good to see your face and to see you smiling and laughing.
It's good to be seen. I tell you what, it was touch and go there for a while.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything.
You too.
Bye.